Yep, I'm here.
Hello and welcome to CAEL Live. How is everybody doing? So, as you know, we start each episode with a quote, and here's your quote for today. This one is a little more like a dialogue, so please bear with me. Know something? Canada, which we tend to think of as a thin ribbon of city lights stretched out along the 49th parallel, is as high as it is wide. The North is enormous. Okay, I'll do that one more time. Know something? Canada, which we tend to think of as a thin ribbon of city lights stretched out along the 49th parallel, is as high as it is wide. The North is enormous. I will, as always, reveal the order towards the end, but if you know the answer already, comment below. Let us start our show. Hello again. My name is Ashwati, and if you're joining us for the first time, CAEL Live is an interactive series where we guide you through your journey to Canada as an international student, We will be talking about international student life, Canadian higher education, admissions, and much more. We will also, of course, be talking about the CAEL test. Now, if you're wondering what the CAEL test is, it is an academic English language test for Canada. The difference between this and other English tests is that the CAEL test is for students wishing to pursue their education in Canada only. This test is accepted and preferred by over 180 institutions in Canada, and it can now be taken online at home. So today's topic is quite relevant to our current situation. Students pursuing their higher education this semester will be dealing with quite a few changes. Post-secondary education, as we know it, has completely changed. We spoke to Dr. Mike last week about how students can cope with these challenges, but today we're going to hear about how institutions are making the most of these times. So today we invited Ajay Patel and Jennifer Gossen from Vancouver Community College. Now, these are prominent members of the post-secondary landscape in Canada, so I am really looking forward to hearing from them. So, to our guests, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on CAEL Live. I'm sure our viewers are really appreciative of having you both here. So before we dive into our questions, I'm going to start with Jennifer. Jennifer, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Jennifer Gossen. I am the Director of International Education at Vancouver Community College. I've been in this position for just over 4 years, experiencing a lot of wonderful professional opportunities, as well as seeing the growth and the excitement of students who are coming to study in Vancouver, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and at Vancouver Community College.
Wonderful. And then we also have Ajay Patel here. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and nice to be online with everybody. My name is Ajay Patel. I'm the president of Vancouver Community College. I've been the president here for about a year. Prior to that, I was at another institution for about 17 years, where I was the lead vice president for the international education and international development area of that institution, and then came over to Vancouver Community College and found myself into the president's role during these unique times.
Wonderful. So people who are watching, it's not every day we have the opportunity to hear from the president and the director of international education of an institution like VCC. So this is your chance to ask them any questions you want about post-secondary education. Please use the live chat below to do so. Meanwhile, I'm going to start with my questions that I have prepared for you both. And as I said before, I'm really excited to have you guys here. So I wanted to know, what role has international education played in your career? Jennifer, would you like to answer that for me?
Sure. So for me, it has opened up a wealth of opportunities for moving VCC forward, and also for professional development for me and for my team. I'm incredibly fortunate to work at an institution that values international education, international students, and international initiatives. And I'm just excited to be on this journey with international education.
Beautiful. And so, Ajay, so for the viewers who are watching, Ajay has good relations with a few of the people who work at Paragon, and Marcy has told us so much about you. So I wanted to know, what is your day-to-day like? And I really am interested in knowing, you did touch a little bit about this yourself in the introduction, but what has your international education trajectory looked like? Or sorry, just education trajectory looked like?
Well, I'll try and keep it short. I immigrated here in the mid-70s with my family, and so was an original international student who had the opportunity to go through both the K-12 sector here, and then college, and then university to complete my master's degree, to return back and become an instructor at a college, taught a little bit at university, then became an academic leader, eventually Dean of International, where Jennifer was one of my colleagues, and then to a vice president role, and so president role. So international education and what it brings to us has been a big part of my life and my upbringing, and reflective of the values that I think international education stands for in this country and the opportunities it presents for students, for those that are immigrants, and for those that go back to their home countries as well. So I think it's been part of my whole life. So it's really hard to separate it. It's who I am. It's what I am. It's what's made me me. But it's also an example of, I think, what Canada's all about in the international education sector.
Wonderful. Again, beautiful trajectory. And I do want to kind of narrow that down to talking about international education in terms of Vancouver Community College. So could you tell us a little bit about the evolution of international education at VCC?
I think Jennifer might be better suited at this. She's had a little more history on it than I probably can comment on where I think we're going.
Perfect.
For sure. So at VCC, we've seen tremendous growth in not only our international student population, but also internationalization efforts, such as creating new partnerships and new programs and building capacity in existing programs. So we are consistently looking at ways to support our students and support the growth of our programs. The programs at VCC provide students with hands-on learning that prepares them for the workplace. In fact, more than 95% of our graduates are employed. And at VCC, international education provides that opportunity for students to study, to live, and to work in Vancouver. Currently, the focus is more on partnerships and collaborations that will allow us to continue to grow our internationalization strategy and create more network of opportunities for not only our students, but also our international education team.
Wonderful. And you did bring up, we are talking about the situation we are dealing with right now. So, and Ajay, you can jump in whenever as well. What does the college experience look like right now for international students at VCC?
I think the experience right now is probably similar to many others, where students that were in the country are probably still learning remotely, well, even though they're in Vancouver or in Canada. But we do have essential activities or hands-on learning that has to happen in many of our programs, and the students are coming back onto campus in a safe, secure, measured way to get that essential learning. And then rest of the learning is happening remotely so that we can get them through their program, so that they can meet regulatory or accreditation requirements, so that they can be part of the COVID recovery that's going to need to happen from an economic perspective and an immigration perspective as well. So those are the students that are currently here. And it's very similar for domestic students as well. For those students that are new students that have unfortunately not been able to arrive in Canada yet, we have created opportunities for them to start remote learning as well. We've adjusted the curriculum so that the essential hands-on applied learning can occur once the borders have opened up and they're able to come to Canada. And they also keeping them in mind that they will contribute to the future of the economy as we recover from the pandemic.
Wonderful. So if any of you potential students are watching here, you know that we're doing everything, VCC is doing everything they can to make sure that you have a wholesome experience. I also wanted to know, how have the steps taken by Canada towards international students affected the international community at VCC?
Maybe I'll start here and Jennifer can comment as well. But I think one of the things that as a Canadian and as a British Columbian, I'm very proud of is how Canada has handled the pandemic for all of our students, domestic and international. I've heard from consulates and embassies about how well we've done in supporting students from their respective countries here. So I think from a Canadian perspective, we've stuck to our values of being that safe, secure, but also maintaining that high quality of education and immigration path streams. And a lot of our immigration policies have been adjusted accordingly so as not to disadvantage international students who do want to come and study in Canada. I also believe British Columbia has been a leader in all of that amongst Canada as well, which I believe makes us a leader in the world. And certainly it bodes well for those students that have already started the studies remotely and those that will arrive at a future date. I think we are proving that the high quality of education can be sustained. We're proving we're safe. We're proving we're secure, but we're also proving that we are providing those social safety nets that students require, that mental health support that they require, those additional supports that they require to be successful. It's not to say it's been easy for students either, but I think we're doing the best we can, and I think we're a world leader in that.
So yeah, British Columbia, nobody needs to sell me on British Columbia. I totally get what you're saying. So Jennifer, did you have anything to add on to that as well?
No, I would just reiterate what Ajay said, that I think that Canada has placed itself very well on the world stage in the managing of this pandemic, and BC institutions have really worked hard to ensure that our students are supported, and that the safety and security measures are in place, and during this very difficult time, just making sure that our students know that Canada remains a safe option for them to study internationally.
Great. And so since both of you did talk about support, let's get into that a little bit more. So what does student support look like during the pandemic at VCC?
So we've really increased our student support during the pandemic. As probably many students and other educators are aware, there were many surveys that were sent out and students had responded to, and really indicated that they wanted increased communication from the institutions. They really wanted to stay in touch with these institutions as they were preparing to come to study, and also as they were here studying. So we took a good look at all of that data and really changed our processes to be able to support students more than ever. Increased communication. So we are now sending our current students and our admitted students bi-weekly newsletters with all of the current information that they need in terms of how to plan to travel to Canada and how to plan to study online. We've also created case management. So we have international student advisors who are working specifically with groups of students in programs, just ensuring that they feel supported, can have their questions answered, and that we can direct them to any of the resources that they require in order to be successful in their online studies. We're also providing virtual advising, immigration advising, academic advising, program advising for students, and just making sure that our students know that they have someone to talk to. Although they can't see us in person, either because they're not in the country or we're working remotely, we want our students to know that we are just as accessible as we've always been. So we've really increased our communication with students and ensured that they have the supports that they need. And it's been very rewarding. We are getting great information and feedback from students, and the feedback that we're getting allows us to adjust some of the program specific and academic advising that we do, and it's been really rewarding for our team to be able to hear how the students are feeling supported and are feeling successful in their programs.
Wonderful. There in this generation especially, there is a lot of value placed in transparency and communication. So it's wonderful that there is this back and forth, there's this active back and forth happening. So I'm going to move the conversation a little more towards CAEL test. You guys were one of the first schools to accept CAEL online. So what drove you to make that decision so confidently and quickly?
Mm-hmm. Well, confidently, because we knew that CAEL, is an incredibly high integrity and security with accuracy and testing. So the online version, we were assured, met all of the same standards for integrity and security. And we also realized very early on that students needed options for online testing, and that CAEL Online gave them that option, a very viable and recommended option for students to do their testing safely and securely from home. We are very confident with the integrity and security and the standards for accuracy that the CAEL test provides. So we had no hesitation in getting on board with being able to accept learners with the CAEL Online assessments.
That's great. Thank you for saying that, Jennifer. And people who are watching, if you're curious about the CAEL Online test and how that works, we will share a link below, either in the chat or in the description. Do check it out. So we are a proudly Canadian test for students wishing to study in Canada, and you're a proud and important member of the Canadian post-secondary landscape here in Canada as well. You also take in a significant number of international students each year. So, we're in this together. We're in this whole academic growth together. So how do you think taking a Canadian academic test benefits international students towards their higher education in Canada?
Maybe I'll comment on that. Having been involved with how CAEL first started in Paragon as well, and understanding how it all worked, I think the first thing is many people need to know that the test was developed by academic leaders in Canada for Canadian institutions. So that alignment right off the bat fits the Canadian education system. And I think that's why you see many institutions adopting that, because it is Canadian test and it was developed by Canadian academic leaders. So from that perspective, I think that's a real positive, and there's value in that from an institutional perspective and a branding for Canada as well. So I think those elements are there, which then leads to the integrity of the test and the alignment of the test with what are the competencies and skills required for students entering into programs and being successful in those programs. So it's almost as simple as it is. It's a Canadian test made for Canadian institutions for people wanting to study in Canada.
That was very well put. I don't think I could have put that in a better way. Yes, CAEL is a Canadian test for students wishing to study in Canada and for Canadian institutions. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us. We are coming closer to the end of our questions. So I just wanted to say that if there was a piece of advice that you would like to share with your international students, people who are watching here, and people who are currently trying their best to continue their education during this global pandemic, what would it be?
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Sure, I can start. So a couple, like kind of just stay focused on your goals. I think that's a great piece of advice. And know that the work that you're doing now is leading you towards the ultimate goal of graduating and to find, essentially finding a fulfilling career in your chosen profession. So certainly, there's a lot of challenges that students are facing with the learning that they are doing, but to stay focused on the ultimate goal of getting the credential they are working towards and ultimately coming to work in the chosen profession and the career that they want. Also, I would also give students advice to stay engaged with their institution. I know here at VCC, we've got a very active social media, and we're encouraging students to share pictures and stories of what learning online looks like. So if you follow our Instagram or Facebook account, you can see amazing pictures of what students are cooking and how they are, making jewelry and learning their programs online and sharing some of the work that they're doing. So being engaged with the institution, I think, is also a really great piece of advice that students can, even if they're not here physically or if they're not on campus physically, to stay engaged and to stay focused on their goals.
I would only add that I think, in addition to what Jennifer said, I think overall, this is a challenging time for students in education, but through this process, you are going to build resilience, and we are going to need all of you throughout the world, in Canada and elsewhere, to help rebuild what is going to be a global economy. And so therefore, you're seeing what the value education brings. And I really believe coming out of this, all of the students, regardless of your experience, the challenges you will face, the obstacles you will overcome, will present you with the resilience to help build the future that we need for our whole entire community, locally, nationally, and internationally. And we need to take that opportunity to learn from this and know that we as Canadian institutions are here to help you get through that. And hopefully many of you will come to Canada, because heaven knows we will need everybody that we can get.
Oh my God, wonderful. I actually have goosebumps. That was so well put. And it's perfectly, it makes a perfect segue to my next question, which is, what is your favorite part about working with international students choosing to study in Canada? And I want to hear from both of you this time. So AJ, if you'd like to start, that
Sure.
would be
I'm a little bit old school in the sense that the most favorite part of working with students is seeing students when they get it, whether they've learned a skill, whether they've completed a credential, whether they've just, that light bulb has gone off. It's there's no better feeling as an educator than to see that and to know that we made that small difference to help them get to that next step wherever they needed to get to. And more recently, as a president, convocation, even though we're doing it virtually, live, there's nothing more exciting than to see the student get that parchment to be able to then move to the next step in their own personal journey. And it's wonderful when that journey gets to return back to VCC in some way or some other place in education. So from that perspective, it might be a little bit old school thinking, but it's the most awesome feeling in the world.
And I agree with what AJ said as well. Some of my favorite things are seeing the students in the hall or being able to connect with them and have them tell me about their experience at VCC. I do quite a bit of travel and recruiting, so I love to be able to talk to students about programs, really, tell them about the benefits of coming to study in Vancouver and at VCC. And then when they arrive, being able to see them and say, hey, tell me what you're studying. What are you learning? And for them to have that engagement with what they're learning and really enjoy the experience that they're having. I love to hear about what they're doing in their classrooms and how that is exactly what they were anticipating when they came, that we're going to be working hands-on, they were going to be cutting hair, they were going to be cooking food, they were, really engaged. And also in doing some travel, one of the things I absolutely love is if I see a student and I can ask them where they're from, and then I can tell them that I've been there, I've been to their country. In some cases, I've been to their city or their village, and just seeing them light up and have that understanding and that connection that we are not just, bringing students here to study at VCC. We are going to them, we are going to their countries and communities and meeting the students and talking about our programs. And then kind of that full circle, as AJ said, when they finish their programs and they graduate and they head out onto their career. And in many cases, when they stay in touch with us and send us stories about the bakery that they've opened or the jewelry that they've designed or the hotel that they're working in, it's very, very rewarding. There are so many rewarding things about working with international students. And certainly I enjoy all of it.
Wonderful. And, the thing that you said about travel and, being able to connect with students really spoke to me, because as an international student, I was also pretty overwhelmed by the fact that, is this a culture that's really new to me? What am I going to do? So really knowing that some people have traveled to a place where I'm from, understand where we're coming from, I think there's real value in that. So thank you. And that was our last question. So again, thank you both, Jennifer and AJ, for joining us. Your time here is really appreciated, and I'm sure prospective students will find this very informative and helpful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So for those of you who are watching, who just joined us, that was AJ and Jennifer. They're from Vancouver Community College. If you missed asking them a question, please ask us in the comments below, and we will try to address them later. Now, we received a few comments about the CAEL lessons, and I know that some of you guys are asking us here as well. So I just wanted to let you know that CAEL test lessons will be on a separate playlist. It's called CAEL Prep with Brandy. Brandy is our instructor here at Paragon, and we drop a lesson every Tuesday, so please do check it out. You can also subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon whenever we drop a new lesson, so you can be on top of things. You can ask CAEL Prep questions in the comments below here. You can also ask them in the comments at the playlist with CAEL, at the CAEL Prep with Brandy playlist. And if it isn't addressed in the future episodes, it will be addressed when Brandy comes live. You can also ask us any questions you want on our Instagram account. Our handle is @CAELTest, and we're pretty active on there. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask us. Send us a direct message and we will respond. Okay, it is now time to find out who the author of our quote is. So I shared a quote in the morning, if you remember, not in the morning, in the beginning of this episode. If you remember, it was a really long quote. Know something? Canada, which we tend to think as a thin ribbon of city lights stretched out along the 49th parallel, is as high as it is wide. The North is enormous. So this was said by none other than Peter Zosky. He was a journalist, and he was also the host of CBC Radio's Morningside, Whistling Down the Northern Lights. So this quote was, if you don't know who Peter Zosky already is, do check him out. He was the host of CBC's Radio Morningside. He was also known as Mr. Canada or Captain Canada. And of the many honors that he received, he was proudest of an honorary doctorate from the University of Toronto, a Governor General's Award for the Performing Arts, and being appointed Chancellor of Trent University in 1999, a position that he held until his death in 2002. So that was a really great journalist. Do check him out. And I'm really glad to be able to share this with you, because we all know we need to learn more about Canadian celebrities, if I may. So thank you so much for joining us. And I just wanted to remind you one last thing. If you are an international student living abroad or in Canada, you may be eligible for the CAEL scholarship. If you took the CAEL test on or after July 2020, or if you're planning to take it now, you can win 5,000 Canadian dollars towards your tuition. I will link our scholarship page below. Please do check it out. If you have any doubts, let me know in the comments below. We just finalized one of our scholarship winners from last year. So exciting times. For our next episode, it will be on Thursday, September 24th at 11 a.m. PST. So please join us. But more importantly, please also invite anybody else you think might be interested. It is admission season. A lot of your friends may be looking to apply in Canada. So the series was made for people like that. Do send this link as well to your friends and family. But until next week, please stay safe and have a nice weekend. Bye.